Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Presentation Drawings webinar. My name is Nick, and I'll be doing the presentation for you today. Just like all of our webinars, this one will be recorded, so you will be able to watch this again at your own leisure. And I'll also be sending out a PDF at the conclusion of the class, which will allow you to have some documentation to allow you to step through the process on your own as well. Again, today's class is on presentation drawings. If you do have any questions at any point during the presentation, please feel free to go ahead and type those into the questions area. And at the end of the class, I'll go through and answer any questions that have come up. So I'm going to go over a quick lesson overview of what we're going to cover today, and then we're going to jump right in. So presentation drawings are used to illustrate design concepts to a client. When completing a set of presentation drawings, the main focus is to ensure the drawing highlights the key areas of the design and that the client can understand the drawings being presented to them. So any construction detail that is normally in your working drawing sheets are going to be eliminated to avoid any kind of confusion that the client may see. So the topics that we're going to cover today are going to be inserting floor plans and then inserting elevations in a presentation mode. So the first thing we're going to look at is inserting presentation floor plans. So a floor plan is a 2D aerial view of one level in your structure, cut horizontally about 4 feet above the floor. The most important drawing of all, the floor plan conveys the bulk of the information about the design and the construction of the model. It lets you see the relationships between your rooms, your spaces, and other physical features in the design. Elements you typically see in a floor plan are your walls, doors, windows, stairs, cabinets, appliances, and your plumbing fixtures. When creating a presentation floor plan, you will want to simplify the information so a homeowner isn't confused by all of the lines. So to do this, we're going to show you how to insert an actual floor plan in a presentation mode. So I'm actually going to go down, and here we can see the actual model that we're going to be working with. And I'm going to go down to the floor plan tab. I'm going to click on that once. This will bring up my working drawing sheets. And I want to first go in and set up my walls so that they are going to be solid fill. So I'm going to go to settings. I'm going to select document settings. And then under document settings, I'm going to select building aids. And under the building aids tab, I want to make sure that this enable solid filling is checked. I'm then going to say apply and then OK. And that will make all of my walls in 2D have a solid fill applied to them. This is also just going to make it look like a solid wall. So it's going to have that cohesive look, and there's not going to be a lot of lines to help confuse the client as to what they're seeing. So now I want to actually insert a smart view of the floor plan that we've added in. So I'm going to go into, and I'm going to select Insert, and I can go to Define Smart View, or I can select the Insert menu, Smart Views, and then select Define Smart View. So again, if you are a tab person or a menu button person, either option will give you the same results. And I'm just going to move this dialog over so we can see it. And as you can see, we can see the actual outline of our floor plan already. So I first want to go in and I want to make sure that I'm working in the 2D tab, which should be by default always set to 2D. I also want to make sure that I'm on the correct location. So I want to be working on the ground floor location for this particular exercise. So I'm going to make sure ground floor is selected. If you use the drop-down, you can see all the different locations that are available to you. And this correlates back to your building locations dialog in your model view. Anything you add to that will also be added in here so that you can select it. Again, we want to make sure we are selecting ground floor. And we also want to make sure that we have the scale set up. So if I'm going to be inserting this as a line drawing, the scale is important. So I'll make sure that that is set to the scale that I want. And in our case, we're going to leave that at 1/4 inch is equal to a foot. Again, if you wanted to make adjustments to that, you could select this and actually type in, or pick any one of these scales that you want. Again, we're just going to use the 1/4 inch is equal to a foot. And under the insertion option, we can see that there's an image and a drawing. And I want to make sure that mine is set to drawing for this particular exercise. If I was to use an image, it would insert it as a pixelated image, so it'd be just like a screen grab of the floor plan, but in a pixelated format. I want to see the actual line, so I want this to be nice and crisp, so I want to make sure it's set to drawing, and it will be a vector drawing, so everything will be an actual line. I want to go down and I want to select the view filter option. And when I select the view filter option, it's going to bring up the view filter dialog box. And this is going to allow me to control the elements that are going to be visible when I insert it. So in our case, I'm inserting a floor plan. So there's going to be some things that I don't want to see. So I'm going to go through and make those adjustments now. So the first thing I want to do is under the elements on terrain, I want to turn off the terrain. I don't want to see the terrain in this floor plan. I just want to see the outline of the building. So I'm going to make sure terrain is turned off. I'm going to go back to elements on location. And in here, I can go through and start turning things on and off that I want and don't want to see. So since I'm looking down onto this model and I want to see everything in the model, I want to make sure that my ceilings and my roofs are turned off, because I don't want to see the roofs in this floor plan. I only want to see the walls themselves. I also want to go through and turn off anything that I also may think is going to clutter up the actual design. So I'm also going to turn off floors as well. Another thing you may want to take advantage of is if you go to the all locations option, you can uncheck that and you can actually select a location and turn it off completely. So I don't want to see anything on the foundation, and I don't want to see anything on the second floor in this floor plan. So the only thing I'm going to see is the ground floor, and I'm going to see the appliances, the cabinets, the footings, any kind of interior elements, so accessories or furniture. I'm going to see my plumbing fixtures, stairs, and my walls. That's exactly what I want to see. And I'm going to say OK. And now I can see what that's going to look like. Now, as in all of our working drawing sheets, when you're inserting anything from this insert view, this window will act as a clipping plane. So you want to make sure that this is showing you exactly what you want to see. So if I had this off to the side, then just remember that this is the only part of the model that's going to be inserted. So I always like to do a zoom extents or zoom to fit option. And then I always use the zoom out, a couple of clicks of the zoom out button, just to make sure everything is actually included. While I'm in this view, I also want to turn on the pattern mode. So this will actually show me any kind of hatch pattern that's associated to any of my elements. So if I zoom in real quick over here, I can see that I have my walls. And if I go down here and I select display mode, I can go down and select patterned. And it's now going to show me the hatch patterns of that wall. So I can see that that's now a brick wall, and I can see the solid fill of my walls as well. So the core is being solid fill. Again, just zoom extents, zoom out with a couple of clicks of the zoom out button, and we can see the actual shape of our design. Again, like I was mentioning earlier, I want to make sure that this is set up as a drawing. Again, if I insert it as an image, it's going to insert a raster image or a bitmap. And I want to make sure that I set the drawing because I want it to be a vector. I want the lines to be nice and crisp. So I'm going to select Inserts. And now attached to my cursor is that floor plan. And I can left click and drop that into the middle of my title block. Now, alternatively, I could do a different format while inserting this floor plan. So I'm going to redo this following the same steps. So I'm going to go back up to Smart Views, define Smart View. I'm going to follow all the same procedures. I'm going to make sure that it's a 2D plan. I'm going to make sure that I'm on the ground floor. I'm going to make sure that it's 1/4 of an inch. I'm going to go down to my view filter. And I'm going to make sure that the elements on terrain, that the terrain is turned off. Under elements on location, I'm going to start turning off things that I don't want to see. So again, I don't want to see the ceilings. I do want to see the floors in this particular case. I also don't need to see the footings. I don't need to see the roof. And we're going to go over and we're going to uncheck all locations. I'm going to turn off foundation. I'm going to turn off second floor. So again, I'm only seeing the ground floor and the elements on the ground floor that I want to see. And I'm going to go and make sure that terrain is turned off. I'm going to say OK. And again, I'm going to see the same preview that I was looking at before, but I'm going to change this to be rendered. And when I do this, what I'm actually going to see are the actual materials. And of those materials, it's going to show me what each room has for a floor. And in this particular case, we can see that the majority of the house is hardwood floor. Where our wet areas are in our bathrooms, we can see that there's a tile. And in our garage, we have a concrete floor. Now you'll also notice that on the left-hand side, the drawing option becomes disabled. Because I am working in a rendered view, I'm showing actual materials. And by showing actual materials, it will no longer be inserted as a drawing. It's now going to be inserted as a raster image. So that's the only option that you can select. So I can just simply hit the insert option. Again, we can use the zoom extents option, a couple of clicks. Now, since the floor is a bit shiny, what I'm going to get is I'm going to get this little bit of a reflection here. So I'm going to actually move this off to the side. We can see that it kind of gets rid of the light that's affecting that floor. I'm just going to make sure that that's moved off a bit to the side. And I'm going to go inserts. And now attached to my cursor is this box that we're seeing. And what this box is it's the actual outline of the image itself. So now I can see the image of that floor plan, and I can see all the different materials. So again, two different ways of adding in a floor plan for a presentation drawing using the solid wall and hatch patterns in a vector line format, or showing the actual materials in an image format to show the flooring options as well. So either way will work. It all depends on what you want to show your clients. So next, I'm going to move on to adding in elevations. So an elevation is an orthographic projection of a building, or more simply stated, a straight-on view of the exterior of the house. The elevation view allows the designer to depict the materials used, illustrate the vertical position of elements, and give a curbside view of the building that will act as a guide when the home is being constructed. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually insert an elevation, and we're going to show you how to do that in both the vector line format and the image format, just like we did with the floor plan. So there are 4 standard elevation views available in Envisioneer. You have a front, left, right, and rear. These are all already defined in the drawing. You can also create your own custom elevations while in model view by simply adding in your own elevation marker and then giving it a specific name. We want to make sure that the current work drawing that we're working on is going to be elevation. So I've already selected the 2 elevations, which brought up a new working drawing sheet for me. And I'm going to go back and I'm going to select under the Insert tab, Smart Views, and I'm going to go to Find Smart View. Or again, if you are a menu option user, you can select Insert, Smart Views, and Define Smart View to bring up the same Insert View dialog. The difference being here is we no longer want to be working in a 2D view. We want to be adding in an elevation view. So I'm going to select the Elevation tab, and this will bring up the option for me to choose between the different elevations. So I can add in my front, my right, rear, or left. In our case, we're going to add in the front elevation. I'm also going to be able to adjust the scale. So again, I can add in the scale factor that I want. Again, I just want that to be 1/4 inch is equal to a foot. We also have datum lines that are added in, or that can be added in if you so choose. In our particular case, again, since we're working with a presentation drawing, which is something that's going to be ideal to show the client without a lot of clutter, I don't want to show any of these datum lines. So I'm actually going to say no to that. And that will disable datum lines. I don't have to worry about any of the other options beneath that. They are not going to be added in. Again, in the insertion area, you can insert it as an image or a drawing. Again, for the first option, we're going to be inserting this as a vector line drawing, so I want to make sure it's set to drawing. But I also want to take control of the view filter. So again, I'm going to be able to control what is going to be visible in this view. So I'm going to select the view filter button. And just a tip here, even if it's a presentation drawing or if it is your full set of construction drawings that you're setting out for permits, always go through the view filter and turn off anything that is going to be on the inside that is not going to be visible on your elevation. For example, interior cabinets, plumbing fixtures like your sinks and your toilets, any interior furniture, all of that stuff, even though it is not going to be visible in your design when you're looking at it in your elevation view, is being analyzed as the elevation is being created. So the more stuff you have in here that isn't being seen, it is still being analyzed, and it will take longer for the elevation to be generated. So I always recommend going through and turning off all of that interior stuff that you are not going to see on the exterior of your design. So again, in our case, I'm going to leave all locations turned on because I want this all turned off for all locations. I don't want to see appliances, cabinetry. I don't want to see HVAC elements, interior accessories, interior furniture, plumbing fixtures. I do want to see my roofs. If you have stairs on the exterior, you may want to keep those on, but I'm going to turn off stairs as well. And so basically all I want to see on my elevations are my walls, my roofs, footings, if I have footings. I can turn off floors and ceilings as well. I'm going to leave those on for right now. And I'm also going to go through and turn off, to make this even simpler, so I'm only seeing just the front elevation. I don't want to see the foundation. I'm going to turn off the foundation completely. And I'm going to say OK. And I'm also going to turn off the terrain, and I'm going to say OK. So now I'm seeing just the ground floor with the roof of my elevation of my design. I'm also going to go down and I'm going to select the display mode, and I'm actually going to select patterned. And this will again show me this exterior elevation in a pattern mode. So I'm just seeing the actual hatch patterns that are assigned to the elements, so I can see what that's going to look like. Again, you can use the zoom extents option. And again, I like to use the zoom out with a couple of clicks just to make sure everything is visible. Again, we're inserting a front elevation at a 1/4 inch scale without datum lines. I'm inserting this as a drawing. I've gone through the view filter and turned off all the elements that I am not going to see in this elevation view. And I've turned it into a hatch pattern mode under the display mode. And again, it's going to be set as a drawing. I click Insert, and attached to my cursor is that hatch pattern. As you can see, that inserted very quickly because, again, I removed everything that was inside the model that is not going to be visible anyways. So the same process that we just used for inserting that elevation as a vector, I'm going to show you how to do this again as a rendered image file so that you can show it with an image. So again, I'm going to go up and I'm going to select the Smart Views, Define Smart View. And again, we're just going to go to Elevation, Front Elevation. I'm going to use the 1/4 inch scale again. Again, note the datum lines. I am actually going to select the View Filter and again, go through and turn off elements that you're not going to see. I'm not going to see any of this stuff. So I'm just going to turn off all of that. Plumbing fixtures, stairs. I'm going to go to all locations, turn off the foundation, elements on terrain. I'm going to turn the terrain off, and we can say OK. So again, now we're just seeing the elements that we want. But this time I'm going to select display mode, and I'm going to select rendered. And I'm going to zoom out a couple of, or zoom to extents. Zoom out a couple of clicks, and again, you can see the drawing option has become disabled. It automatically grabs image, and I'm now inserting just an image file of that elevation. And I can simply click Insert, and now attached to my cursor is the elevation view of that design as well. So now I'm seeing the actual materials of that rendered, of that view that we have of our model. So I'm going to go over a quick overview of what we covered, because that's everything that I wanted to show you today. So the first thing we wanted to talk about was adding in your presentation drawings, so for your floor plans. So we were able to do this by going to our Smart Views, define Smart View, and then choosing between the options that we want. If we want this to be an image file or a drawing file, we can change either one of those views. And we can use our display mode to change the actual style that we're going to be displaying this in. So be it rendered or patterned, we can change to one of those options. We could also go in here, and we have an option here called realistic. So you could actually insert this. So I used rendered before, where the render is actually going to show you, if I just turn off elements here, and let's just go foundation, we're going to say display none, second floor, display none, ground floor, I don't want to see ceilings or roofs, and we'll say okay. So here we have this set up as rendered, but if I use the realistic mode, what the realistic mode will do is it will actually show me all the shadows as well. So now when I zoom in, I can see the shadows along this model. So it's another option just to give it a little bit of more realistic view, or a more appeal to the eye to see how the sun is going to affect the design at certain times of the day. And I've had clients use this feature just to show time studies of time of day of how the sun is going to react and how the shadows are going to cast on the scene or on the site at different times of the day. So again, we can use the image option or the drawing option to insert these as we need to be able to show our clients these designs in different formats. We then looked at inserting our elevation views, and again, we were able to insert that as an image file or a drawing file. And again, if it's an image file, it's going to be in a rendered view. And again, we can use that realistic mode. So again, going to insert Smart Views, define Smart View. I can select the elevation view that I want, and I can actually go right down to here and select realistic mode. And again, I'm just going to zoom out a couple of clicks, and I'm going to go to my view filter. And again, I'm just going to turn off elements that I don't want to see. So again, I am just going to go through and turn off everything I don't want to see, like so. And then I'm just going to turn off the foundation completely and turn off the terrain and say okay. So again, we're seeing how the sun is going to affect this scene. And then when I insert that, attached to my cursor is going to be that image file. And again, we're just going to see the sun and the shadows coming into these areas. Again, another option just to show how you want to present that to your clients. I'm going to go ahead and open up the question and answer period. So if you have any questions at all about what we've covered today, please feel free to go ahead and enter those in, and I'll do my best to answer those for you. So a question here is, I'm not sure if this is in the scope, but how do I insert my title block instead of CADSOFT? It's a little outside of what we're covering today. If you have your own title block, you probably want to create a template, and we have a template video on how to do that. I believe there's also a webinar on that as well, on inserting and creating your own templates. But you would modify an existing title block to include your information, and then you can insert it. If you have already included it or already inserted it somewhere, it should be a part of your blocks folder. So you can actually just go in here to insert block, and then you should have a bunch of different title blocks in here, and one of these may have your title block information into it already. So that's how I would go about doing it, taking a look at what's in your insert block option and see if it's in there. If not, create a template that's going to include your information. So that way, every time you start a new drawing, it's going to include your title block information. So again, I'll leave that question section open for a little bit longer. So again, if you have any questions, please feel free to go ahead and type those in. If you don't have a question at the moment, but one comes up later, you can contact our support department. So you can email in or call in with any questions that you have, and we'll be able to help you out with anything that you have in regards to inserting your presentation drawings as well. And again, don't forget, I will be sending out a PDF at the end of this class, so you will have this document to go through to try it out on your own as well. And I'll also upload the video up to our YouTube channel so you can actually watch the video again at your own leisure to step through the process on your own as well. I'll leave that question section open for another minute, just in case there's anybody typing a question now. All right, well, that seems to be all the questions. I want to thank everybody for attending today. Hopefully, we were able to go through and give you some new tools and tips on how to create your presentation drawings. Again, if you have any questions at the end of the class, you can send those into our support department, and they'll be able to help you out. One question, can you please go through the wall fill again? Yeah, no problem. To add in the wall fill on our floor plans, all I did was I went up to settings, document settings, and under building aids, I enabled the solid fill option. So what this does is it goes and adds in a solid fill to the core of all your walls. And if you go back into your model view and you just happen to select the wall, I'm just going to click on this wall here and go right click, properties. Under here, when we look at the appearance, the line work, we can see that we have our solid fill option for each of these. So if this option is selected and you turn on the solid fill under the document settings building aids, it will find what you have set up here and apply that to your wall. So if you want these to be different colors, you can change the colors here. Just make sure that this enable option is checked. And you can do that for all of the core spaces. So we usually, by default, only have the airspace and the 2D core selected. And that's because we want our exterior surface to have its own pattern. So when I looked at this in our 2D plan view, we saw this hatch pattern applied to that part of the wall. So we're only actually applying a solid fill to the core of the wall, and then we're using a hatch pattern for the exterior surface. So you can control how you want that to be done, but again, this is where you control it under the line work of the wall that you have in your model. And again, when we look at that in our 2D plan view, you can see that there is our solid hatch pattern, there is our solid wall, and then there's our hatch pattern. Okay. Let me know if that answered what you were looking for. Perfect. All right, well, that seems to be, oh, wait, another question. Oh, thank you very much. So that seems to be all the questions that have come in. Unless there's another one coming in, I'll wait for another minute just to see. All right, perfect. Well, again, I want to thank everybody for attending today. Hopefully we're able to answer all your questions. And again, I hope to speak with you all again very soon. Have a great day, everyone. I'll talk to you soon. Bye now.